The festival is nigh!
Game number 2 of the day, Nexus versus Chris. Ellie, center square.
I'm gonna say Perfume Bottle Altus only, because it's been a contested one and we're never seeing Moog ever again, so that's my thought.
I will go for Sewer Moog. I said that as it popped up, but center square is Radon without friendly NPCs, so that is a very interesting center square. A square players like to go for. Radon can often be very powerful on the boards, but as always, we'll start looking at this board with the early squares. Nexus is probably one of the most dominant early game players in the league, so those are very important to him. We do have 2 Catacomb dungeons on row 1. That would synergize well with Spirit Ash Summon +4 and 2 Black Knives on row 2. Additionally, we have another fast square and take Raya's Hand to Volcano Manor. Not necessarily super fast, but you can do that while you're getting Altus access. You could go Raya's Hand straight into Radon. Renala is another one. If there is good Academy, which it doesn't seem like there necessarily is on this board, it can be very strong. Gil +0 and Box Needle, both on row 3. 2 of the fastest squares in the set. So really strong squares there as an opener. In row 4, we have Magmorm, which can be done fairly early and quickly. And finally, on that row 5, we have 10 Crackpots, a favorite square of Nexus. He really does like to practice his speed run routing. So he loves those routing
you
squares.
Can see he already has, without much hesitation, he already picked them as a starting gift. So I definitely think it's a strong opener because there's Raya, Renala, Rykard on the other adjacent top left. That can get you into Altus very quickly, which is good, both either just through getting through Volcano Man or through Virgins, depending on the weapon seed we have today. You can't ignore Altus. You can for a little bit maybe, but I think that's a really good map progression route for them to take is the Crackpots.
Mm-hmm. I think the late game on this board looks interesting. We have Rykard, we have the Godskin Apostle and the Divine Tower of Caelid. If you guys don't know, that guy's crazy high scaled and an absolute menace. We have Valiant Gargoyles on the bottom right corner. All the corner squares are these very, very difficult squares, or the more difficult squares. We also have Margit and Moog Shackle, which requires capital access. And I think there's a good, fairly balanced board, a good mix of early game and late game.
Yeah, I think I feel for Chris. I just miss what starting gift he went with, if he didn't go for Crackpots or not. I feel for anybody, honestly, not just Chris, but in this case, because he's playing, I feel for anybody who has to go against Nexus in what is the best play, being, I think, the best opening play being Crackpots. Nexus is kind of one of the people who spends too much time, or maybe just enough time, depending on what your perspective is, on routing these things. So I think it would be a hard thing to challenge him on.
Yeah.
But it is a really important thing. Like, what do you do, right, when your opponent is just so apt at that type of practice?
I mean, I think you just go for a Gil, and then I would just go for a Gil and then send Liurnia.
Like Gil sending Liurnia, yeah, it makes sense. That makes sense. Gets you a square on the board.
Sorry, give me 1 second, Ellie. Someone's
Okay.
knocking at my door.
Yeah, to Brabby's comment and Snowy's correction, that's correct. You can't kill the Magma Worm in Volcano Manor. For that square, it has to be a boss, so you're looking at Magma Worm Makar to blocking Altus. From Gale Tunnel, you're looking at the Caelid Magma Worm in Gale Tunnel. You could do the Altus Magma Worm, but you won't, probably, because there's no reason to do so this board. But yeah, I think the biggest thing I don't want to see is I don't want to see either of them do Box Needle. Because I think
agree.
Box Needle is the biggest trap on this board for sure.
Yeah, and also just to say, I saw some questions. All these games this weekend are going to be huge. It is the second to last weekend of the season. Some players like Chris, he doesn't have a game week 8 due to scheduling reasons, so he plays 2 games this week, and then he either makes playoffs or has a chance to make playoffs, or his season could be done. So this is a really, really big week of bingo for all of these players. A lot of people's seasons are on the line, and you whether or not it's actually your final game, a lot of people's fates might be sealed after this weekend in terms of playoffs.
For sure. And it looks like Nexus has done the crackpot routing, so one thing that people have figured out through some really good optimization is going crackpots. You skip the first step, Grace. You get Church of Ella instead, because we're going to buy your second last pot, or your second last 3, I suppose. And then Church of Ella is close enough to get you to the south side of the map. Chris getting this Grace here makes me think Box Needle or a Gil +0. But he also skipped first step and didn't get Church of Ella, I believe. So I think we're probably going to see a Gil +0 from Chris with Torrent, which is much safer with a square off.
One of the things I do think you guys will notice, so this is a Golden Order game, and especially Nexus, being one of the best players in the Golden Order, particularly at what I'm going to mention, the biggest difference I see between the Golden Order and the Crucible is routing. Right, like Nexus routing is very precise. Like he has practiced this specific cracked pots run for hours. Right, like that. It's that little stuff like that is the biggest difference to me. He's just incredibly fast, and not everyone is as crazy as Nexus, but these types of things seem to be the biggest difference between the Golden Order and the top Crucible players this season. Actually, Nexus is deciding to grab Graces here. Sometimes he does skip them.
Yeah. Black Knife, Deathroot.
2 Catacombs.
Tree Spirits. Yeah, I think this is one of those boards where it's harder to justify skipping it. I think Chris is going to make a play for 2 catacombs, and cement some priority on Black Knights and Duelists. He's going to the Duelist Catacomb first. Interesting.
Oh, and Chris dies to the Imps.
Holy moly. I hope he got the Grace.
I hope he got the Grace too. Grace. But yeah, Nexus has become so dominant in his routing that if you guys were fans of Bingo Brawlers Season 3 in particular, sometimes players, he did not grab the Grace. That's brutal for Chris. He's going to go for a Gil.
I think that's a smart pivot, an unfortunate one, but a wise one.
Anyways, what I was saying is, like in Bingo Brawlers, sometimes players would not challenge Gino Machino, on the early rush square, or on the early kill squares like Scion or Tree Scent, because he's Gino, right? We've kind of seen that happen in this league, particularly with the early routing squares like Crackpots or Paintings, where it's just you don't challenge Nexus on those. You just don't. You're asking to get burned.
Yeah, I think the problem with not... Oh, man. Yeah, we'll have to see. He's in the fight now. The damage ain't bad. Right. We have the pesky mosquito. Mosquitoing around.
Mm-hmm. Ouch. I need to Keltris to fix his bitrate on Twitch.
That is a bad stop. And this is why doing this with the torrent is sometimes bad. This helps him recover this a little bit better.
Yeah. There is basically a script that you can do if you have a square off weapon in particular. Uchi Katana also works.
I'd be curious. Yeah, Vacuum Slice is not an actual word to sleep on. It actually does a substantial amount of poise damage and damage overall.
Yeah, it's a Baby Taker's Flames.
Yeah, I would wish that Chris would maybe use it a little bit more. I only know that from our randos that we've been doing recently as a group. Then Vacuum Slice was a very good extra war for that, but
gets another stagger there. This should do it.
Stagger. Yeah, all things equal. This double heavy and then riposte, bam.
Nice job by Chris getting that square. We'll check in with Nexus.
to do that shit. Okay. I don't think that means I need to finish up this square, but...
All right, so Nexus here is debating holding on Crackpots, not finishing it now. That way he can just hide a little bit of information from Chris about what he was doing early. And since there's no chance that Chris could get this square in the next little bit because he was killing Egil, he can go do something else for a minute or two and then come back and finish Crackpots.
Yeah, and I wonder, is a Seaside Ruins, what is her, and what am I missing that he's doing this for? It could just be to check Yura for a kill. There's no caves. Huh. Cemetery Shades, I guess Sacred Flask +6. Not
Yeah.
bad grace to get. Yeah. You can kill Yura for a weapon check if you need it. And he's... What is he doing back in... Oh, he didn't get first step.
He didn't get first step now. So Chris has to wait for this elevator. And Nexus deciding to not hold Prio and just go ahead and get Crackpots. I understand why. Typically, a Geel is marked much, much faster than that because obviously Chris went for Catacombs first and died. Normally, a Geel is marked...
There it is.
Around 4 minutes or so. Because his game froze there a little bit.
Yeah, his game freezes when he tabs in and out, unfortunately. For marking squares, we've tried talking. He's even bought like Borderless Gaming to try and make it work, but unfortunately, we'll notice that. But
yeah, I've somehow never noticed that until today, until right now.
Then.
Yeah, bad commentator.
Yeah. Not paying enough attention when you need to be. It's okay.
I'm sorry.
It's
Also, Ellie, can you move your mic a little bit closer?
I can.
All right. That was maybe a little much, but like sometimes when you like trailing off, you're just a bit quiet.
Well,
Well,
pick one, I guess. I don't know. That's fine.
pick me.
No, pick me. Uppies later. Anyway, we're fine.
Say less. Okay.
Say
Chris
less.
is going for Catacombs here.
I like this. I would have liked it better if he got the grace and didn't die. I think the one thing I'm worried about, though, is I don't think you can take a long time to not get into Liurnia on this board, right? I don't think you have like the time to waste, and I worry that he's not going to respect that because Nexus is already getting a deck this half. Never mind, he's in the wrong spot for that.
Nexus might be pushing Catacombs too.
Yeah. Through Black Knives.
Even if Nexus loses Catacombs, though, at the very least, he's going to get the Katana check at Black Knives. So there is a weapon randomizer here. So Katana checks are always a Katana or a Great Katana from the DLC. And there are so many Bingo viable Katanas. They are definitely the strongest checks in Bingo, at least by percentage. Chris gets grabbed by the duelist.
Mid-air.
You have to use the grab attack.
Bro.
He wanted uppies, and the duelist caught him.
That looked like some shit. Not gonna lie, I'd be
So
staggering
weird?
in my
All the time.
my
I swear to
thoughts.
God.
Speaking of stagger, nice stagger from Chris.
Did you see what the Katana was for Nexus?
No, I didn't. Maybe somebody in chat can help us out. Let us know.
Chat, please help. I'm not gonna lie, this has to be one of the longest duelist fights I've ever seen.
Oh, that stagger
I
was
personally-
good and close.
All right, boys. I don't think I'm gonna get the square, just because of how weird this is going.
Okay, nice. Chris gets one.
And we hear Chris say, "I don't think I'm gonna get this square because of how weird this is going."
Can I not just hit you
Yeah.
with that, please? That'd be cool. Please sprint. I'm pressing sprint button.
It's hard. I mean,
Oh.
Black Knife's the
I
more
thought it was gonna have like
finicky
some
one.
blasphemous blade shit where like
He
sends
has
him
to run
back.
through still.
It did not. Oh, that's funny.
Also, this is like karmic justice for
I do
Nexus
need a
because
death
Nexus
root.
lost to Nartok because he died in that duelist catacomb.
Yeah, I think honestly, Chris dying and having to pivot to a Geel is going to be a bigger mistake than I think even he thought.
Yeah.
Because it's like he would have had the square already, right? Even if he just did the Duelist Catacomb and then sat and did a Geel after, he'd be ahead. But he literally got a late mark on a Geel. And Nexus doesn't know why, but we unfortunately we have that insight as to I mean, maybe Nexus dies to the Imps again and doesn't get the Grace again.
And also your early game time is just the most valuable because how you spend your early game sets you up for the rest of the game, right?
Yeah.
And losing a few minutes off the start can definitely be devastating. Additionally, thank you so much, Wiki. The katana check was Serpent Bone Blade, so that is absolutely useless. It is a smithing weapon, which is generally less desirable, cannot be infused, and is just not good.
No, not at all.
So both players will still be looking for a weapon after this. I know we did not have weapon checks in the last game because both players had Alabaster. So if it's your first time watching Bingo, you're going to see the players are going to try to be routing in weapon checks while they go to complete certain squares. So like getting the katana check here in the Black Knife Catacombs or the Death Touch Catacombs before killing the boss, you know, going to Round Table and doing checks, doing the Halberd check in Liurnia. Players will be doing a lot of checks along the way.
Yeah, Nexus is going to get this fight first, and big reason for that is not Memory of Gracing.
What the fuck?
On Chris's end, rather.
You kind of just stood still there for a second.
The ER tool? Hello?
Nexus?
Nexus?
The allegations?
Yo, Vacuum Slice is cool.
Nexus also knows, you can tell Nexus has either used this weapon before or has an understanding of this weapon because using the Astral War the way he is, he's in the heavy attacks, like he's very much obviously comfortable. You know, Chris really floundered on this fight, but you know, this duelist hasn't been able to play for Nexus.
Yeah, and Chris is gonna get sniped here.
Yeah,
Nexus also doing a nice job of crouching there to recover stamina.
God, that's close. But that's a bad snipe.
Yeah, Chris got sniped by like just a second or two. Literally just a second or two. Man, that's really tough. On one hand, it's really tough. But on the other hand, it's like on Chris, right? Like he could have not died. He could have had a better fight. And that will cost him the square. Because it was literally, I saw it watching on his screen. Because his stream is a bit more delayed. It was just like a 1 or 2 second snipe. And holy shit, ladies and gentlemen, we have Dragon Halberd from the Halberd check in Liurnia.
That's miserable.
The best weapon in Bingo that players hate because it's so oppressive and good.
Yeah, so I can explain my reaction, I guess, for some context. The problem isn't, per se Dragon Halberd. The problem is when Dragon Halberd is there and you're Chris and you neglected Liurnia progress for a bit, you're now, it's like Nexus doesn't have to do checks anymore. Nexus can just like literally play the game and start pushing the gas. And he has the first mover's advantage on doing so. And it's just kind of like a snowballing problem that now Chris is going to have to mitigate. And I hope he mitigates it by checking Halberd check.
And to explain why Dragon Halberd is so strong, the first thing is, it's very easily wieldable. When it comes to Bingo, like being easily wieldable is the most important thing. For sure, like there are a lot of weapons that can be like mid normally that are good in Bingo because they're easy to get online, right? Additionally, Bingo is played at low weapon levels. I know last time we had Somber 9 on the board, but typically the highest you ever see players go is a +6 weapon. As a result, any weapon that has a Ash of War buff that increases damage with a flat number is very valuable, because if you get 60 more damage on your weapon because of a buff, that means a lot when you're normally only doing 200-300 damage. If you're doing 500 or 600, it means a lot less, right? But at low weapon levels, the buff is super powerful. Additionally, it does frost, and it is lightning damage. So you can kill the Abductor Virgins very easily to get into Altus. So it is just an incredibly strong weapon, pretty much perfect for bingo. The only thing holding it back is that the charged R2 on it is not good, but the poke R1s are insane. The jump R2s are great. It's an incredible weapon. Also does bonus damage to dragons as just a cherry on top.
Yeah, this is gonna be a accelerating machine. Nexus go into box, doesn't even bother. There's a new tech that Nexus figured out for this. You can hide in the bushes to the left and start the fight a little bit quicker, or safer rather. You don't get opening, but Dragon Halberd is just so strong. Hey, he doesn't need to worry about no tech. He can just destroy them.
Yep.
Like, look at this.
Like, obviously
Plus
this
zero
is
weapon.
a Limgrave boss, but this is a +0 weapon.
And wieldable off rip, right? Because the stat requirements are so simple.
Yeah. And Chris is going the other way into Liurnia. Oh, this could get really bad for Chris. Especially because Nexus is so dominant early. Like, Nexus is one of the few people who is capable of just steamrolling the best players in the world.
Yeah, especially if he's given the free reign to do so, right? And not
Yeah.
being challenged.
He's so fast early, and if you make mistakes, you can be an incredible bingo player, and he will just steamroll you.
Yeah. Yeah, like early deaths in particular against Nexus are kind of like a no-go. You're not really allowed to do them. But honestly though, I will say, that's pretty true of like the league now, right?
Yeah.
Like the games have been so close that the micro mistakes have actually made really big differences. And who comes up on top or who doesn't. And I'm really like, I want to be nice here to Chris, but he keeps not checking weapons
Yeah.
in games, and it's kind of hard to give empathy to that after the 5th game in a row watching him.
Okay, so for context, I'm going to give context here.
Okay.
Ellie, everyone in this league is good friends, right? First off.
Yes.
Very, very fortunate that everyone gets along. Particularly me, Ellie, Chris, Nexus, we're a part of a group chat. Like, it's like your standard, like, basically high school fucking meme group chat. We shoot the shit all the time. We're very close. Chris will not do weapon checks and then complain about losing to weapon disadvantage, like meaning he had a worse weapon. And Ellie's worried that that's going to happen again.
Like, he's not doing... My anger is out of love. My anger is out of love and frustration. It's so hard, It's like watching somebody make this that you care about make the same mistake over and over and over again. And it's just really hard, I want him to do well. At the same time, if he doesn't do this against me tomorrow, I'm fine with that too. So
yeah,
I don't know, keep it up, I guess. But
hey, no, he'll learn his lesson. He'll do all the weapon checks tomorrow.
I mean, you know what? Honestly, after getting the sure I got last week, I'm sure I will. My just desserts will come, and I'll get a very well-oiled machine for that too. But yeah, no, this is gonna be a funny post game if he doesn't do that weapon check. By funny, I mean devastating and sad. But,
yeah, and Halberd check is so strong too because there's another really good weapon that you can get from Halberd check. Well, there's actually 3. Golden Halberd is a very good weapon, but it's not like broken in any way. It's just like a standard very good weapon, right? The other one is Banished Knight's Halberd +8, which particularly on early game boards, even though it's not the strongest weapon in the world, it does come pre-upgraded. So that can be very strong. What we mean by weapon check is that so weapons are randomized. There's logic to it, but they're randomized. So for instance, like the Lord Sworn Greatsword at Gatefront, that is always going to be a Greatsword, but it will typically not be Lord Sword. It could be Darkmoon Greatsword, it could be, Alabaster, it could be anything, right? there are certain checks that are better than others, particularly greatswords, halberds, katanas, and axes are the best check. Axes being probably a distant fourth. And additionally, within that, there are certain specific checks, like that halberd check in Liurnia on Liurnia Highway North, that are just simply meta. Like, you basically need to do them if you don't have a weapon. And Chris has not done it yet.
And he's picking up smithing stones, and I'm thinking he's not going to do it. I don't get it. I'm actually like kind of in awe from that type of decision making. I don't want to be, but I am. So
enemy drops. So this is really technical. If you don't care about the real technicalities of the randomizer, I totally understand. So there are basically two different classifications or there's actually four. The different classifications of weapons are remembrance, which are in their own pool. Then there are shop weapons, which means weapons sold by a merchant. There are chance drop weapons, which are like RNG farming weapons. And then there are map weapons. Map weapons are any guaranteed pickup or enemy drop. So if a boss or enemy drops a weapon 100% of the time, that is a map drop, right? But if you have to farm a skeleton for the grave scythe, that is a percent chance drop. At that point, it gets a little too technical. They're all in different pools, but basically, yes, like an NPC that drops a dagger is always going to drop a dagger.
yeah.
Yeah, it starts to get to, it's very, very technical and refined. Our modding team has done an incredible job of like really figuring this stuff out. And it comes down to a point where, like, honestly, even if you're playing, it doesn't really matter if you go super into the weeds, right? Yeah. Yes, if you did farm a skeleton, it would drop a scythe.
Sometimes I've been in games where I've killed something one time and there it is, right? It's dropped a surprising piece of gear into its usability, but it's pretty rare I bother.
Yes.
Right, it's not often worth it, but it does.
Yeah,
happen.
if you farm a skeleton, it would drop a scythe, but it is still a chance drop, right? Like there's still like a 2% chance of getting it or whatever.
I find it awesome that Nexus's quit outs are so fast with his load times. He's one of the few people who grace quit outs. That's awesome. But yeah, it's Magma Worm time for Nexus. This is a good block too. He creates a diag threat, builds the board.
Oh, you think this damage would be
At the
better?
start too. No charge shenanigans off rip. Oh, yeah. This is good. This is still +0, I'm pretty sure.
There's my frost. No, you dick.
Oh, don't complain, Nexus. You got one charge, man.
I missed. You fuck ass.
Oh. Okay, never mind.
Right here.
Nice. The Nexus.
Yeah, very nice job by Nexus there.
If I can play the game. Then.
He gets Rivers of Blood. Not that it matters, but that is a awful katana for bingo.
Nexus has wanted and has argued about using it forever, and
It's
I'm
terrible.
sad that he won't do. I know. We all know it's bad. But Nexus is always convinced one day it will be good.
That was how I remember like CBD was in my chat one day when I was playing bingo. And the way he like tested me to see if I knew my shit was I got like Rivers of Blood and I made some sort of reaction that was kind of like neutral, right? Like you couldn't tell if it was like a good damn or like a bad damn, right? And he was like, are you saying that because it's good or it's bad? And then I was like, no, Rivers of Blood is shit for bingo. And he was like, oh, okay, this guy at least knows a little bit of what he's talking about. Because a lot of Rivers of Blood especially used to be very good in casual play. So that's like kind of a litmus test.
Did they nerf it? Like, what made it worse?
Yeah, so it got nerfed. So here's the story of Rivers of Blood. On release, the release day patch, it was absolute dog shit. The arcane scaling for a lot of weapons was just completely broken, and that included Rivers of Blood. So it was terrible. Then they fixed the arcane scaling, and it became one of, if not the best weapon in the game. It was incredibly overpowered, and then that was a problem for a while. It was particularly a problem in PvP, and then according to Helios, it got nerfed like 3 times, and against certain enemies that are weak to fire and bleed a lot, like it's still very good, but it's definitely more situational and not the best weapon in the game like it used to be.
Okay.
That's the story.
There you go. Now, Nexus jokes all the time about wanting to make it work, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think you're going to be able to. I don't think it's a weapon you make work.
But anyways, like back to this game, like I mean, man, it's just a tough spot for Chris because he's committed to the smithing stone route, and Nexus is just lighting up the board. And also at some point, right, Nexus has, I mean, to be fair, Nexus's square pace is always incredible, right? Like seeing him around like a 6-7 minute square pace is, meaning 6 or 7 minutes per square, is nothing out of the ordinary.
No.
But if he does have a really good pace, like at some point, you have to ask yourself, like, shit, did he get something at halberd check?
Yeah, right? I mean,
like if your opponent starts marking, like, particularly when you get like at a very high level, there are little things that you will pick up on. So like if your opponent starts, you have some players actually really know timings. Other players kind of operate with like an internal clock. But whatever your metric is, if you notice that your opponent is like marking squares at a higher rate than you would necessarily expect, a lot of times players will ask themselves, like, they got a good weapon, what checks have I not done? Right.
I also just think, and what makes this hard to watch in a sense, or at least hard to like think about for Chris, is that like Chris, like halberd check isn't a boorish, outlandish like check, you know, it's not like some sort of like insane tech that only some people do. Like it's kind of standard practice, right? Like check halberd as you enter Liurnia. And to not do it without a good weapon already is pretty bonkers to me,
I mean, there are 3 checks that are just standard. I think even if you have a good weapon, it might be worth doing the checks, unless you have like Dragon Halberd or, you know, Alabasters like we saw last game. And to me, it's Greatsword check with the Lord Sword and Greatsword, the Halberd check in Liurnia, which is the Lucerne in base game. If you want to look up where that is, you can go on the wiki and look up Lucerne. And then Round Table.
Yeah, at minimum.
Yeah, at minimum you do those 3 checks.
And to not, right, is just it's just sort of staggering.
Yeah. I think,
right?
You know, Snowy made a good point. Like, I think he's right? Chris might, you know, out of respect to Nexus, because the guy's a god, right? Like, he's been playing insane, might be saying, hey, I'm going to have to gamble a bit in hope that, like, things fall in my way if I'm going to win, right? I just hope that that's a conscious decision by him. Because if it is, right? And that's how, you know, that's what he's chosen to do. And unfortunately, it hasn't rolled his way. I just hope it's a conscious decision, though, and not an outright mistake. But Nexus goes down in the catacomb there while working on Spirit Ash +4. It's the first death to Nexus. Did he grab the Grace? I'm sure he probably did.
He did. But I don't think he pull. I didn't see him pull the lever. Right? Like.
No, he did not get to the lever, no. He still will have to pull the lever. Yeah, so Nexus has to wait for this elevator to come back up.
Ugh, that's actually so brutal. Chris isn't Altus already, which is nice, but I don't know. I mean, so kind of going back for a second, but what Snowy was saying, I get that idea, right? The mentality there, of like Nexus being better, wanting to maybe take like the seed as trash. I don't think Nexus. I think there's almost like, and this happens right with them. There's a mythology, right, of like of skill there that I don't think is like unearned by any stretch of the imagination, right? Nexus is obviously a good player and obviously he plays well, but it's not like impossible. And I think it's like kind of like, if that, I don't think Chris thinks that way either. Like, knowing him really well, I don't think he thinks like that way. Unfortunately, I think he thinks more in extremes, like either I like this is over or this isn't. But I think he like, I don't know what it is with the halberd check, or weapon checks in general.
Only.
I don't really get the.
Well, we will see the Watchdog duo here from the Nexus.
Doesn't really matter who you Crystal Dart.
This will be 2 of his 3 Erd Tree Watchdogs.
Can you stop aggroing onto me, please? That'd be.
Well, cool. Nexus is talking and loud, so we'll let him do his thing.
Oh, that RNG is not bad either.
Thank God.
Got some good DPS on 1. That could have done a lot more.
Thank God.
Yeah, it could have been
damage.
a bit better.
Yeah. The nice part about the Kalig Magma Worm.
And is Chris just going for +6 here, just for the block? Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah. I mean, it does put him closer to the Catacomb for some shades.
Yeah.
I don't know if that feels good enough in some ways.
Chris, okay. Chris just dies to Vike intentionally there. He's just trying to get these Sacred Tears so he can get Sacred Flask +6. That'll block Nexus's column 4 and row 5. And, to Snowy's point, I do think if you do see yourself as an underdog, like, trying to rely on RNG to help you a bit isn't the worst idea.
Yeah,
but
I don't
pick your, but like you pick your spots, right? Like maybe you do peeler check, right? Even though it's an RNG check, like or something like that, like or like you cut off your weapon checks early or something. I don't think you skip halberd check if that was the idea. I just think that's too scary. Yeah, there's like a 20 to 25% chance or somewhere around there that you're getting a great weapon, one of which being a slightly less than 10% chance of getting something extremely dominant. It's just too scary.
Yeah,
because like especially at this level the players are so good. Unfortunately, if one guy has Dragon Halberd and the other guy doesn't, the game's probably over just on the spot. Right.
I think the thing that makes me,
depending on what the other weapon is, right?
Of course. I think the thing that's confusing me most is I don't know why not check it. Like, I'm having a hard time imagining a world where you don't check it. Like, it doesn't do you harm to do so in any capacity, right? It's actually the opposite. It's quite a powerful check to do. I think I just struggle a bit with like the idea of not checking it at all when it's such a powerful and accessible check. And I agree with how he even got into Liurnia. I think like getting Liurnia, and getting the Grace, the Lake Facing Cliffs Grace was important because 6 Sacred Flasks is on the board, but you'd still just jump down this Tombstones, right, and go check Halberd anyway. Yeah.
I also think we're seeing Nexus here. There was a practice game that you and I both talked to Nexus against Strump. Yeah. Strump had 1 square on a line, and then just prepped the entire line, and ended up bingoing Nexus. And Nexus was like, "How did I know that wasn't a threat? Like, how was I supposed to know that was a threat?"
Yeah,
like, he only had 1 square on the line, and like Ellie and I talked to him, and we're like, "Nexus, here's the deal. Like, you're going up against the best players in the world. If someone marks a square on a line and then doesn't do something for 20 minutes, there's a good chance they're prepping it, right? Yeah. Like, there is a good chance they're prepping it, and you have to respect that. So that's why we see Nexus immediately just going for Watchdogs here. killing any threats that Chris could potentially build off of on that column 2.
Yeah, while maintaining his own pressure in the diag space, right? Like, yeah, I think this is it's hard because, like, I don't think Nexus needed, obviously, Dragon Halberd to have this type of pace even, right? This ability.
Yeah.
I think, I will say, the bigger mistake, really, this game, outside of Halberd check, is the early routing decision in the death, right? Not contesting crackpots, I understand, but not getting the grace for duelists,
especially when we
I just don't like it for somebody.
especially when, you know, we did all learn that lesson, you know, I think it was 2 weeks ago, in Nartok versus Nexus. You know, Nexus's only loss, he actually died in that catacomb and didn't grab the grace. Had he either grabbed the grace or not died, he would have won that game by bingo, and he would be 6-0 right now. But that same mistake that we saw Chris do earlier is the reason why there's a 1 on Nexus's record and not a 0.
Yeah, and it's just really like, it's just disheartening in the sense that, like, it doesn't make, it's not an advantageous thing to do. When there's 6 flash for Chris, which is a good block.
Yeah, that's a good block. I also will say, like, I think Chris is one of the players that is, like, highly capable of, like, it's going to be hard for a lot of mid-pack players to upset Nexus. I think Chris is one of the players who could.
Me too.
In other events, he's beat Helios. Helios and Nexus. Helios, Nexus, Shura, and Strump are pretty clearly, at least standings wise, the top 4 players in the league right now. You know, Chris beat Helios, has beat him in past events. Is one of only 3 players to beat Helios in an actual competition. When he's dialed, he has that ability. I mean, hell, the guy's done no roll, no hit. Yes, he used Dynast Finesse, but so Mouse, calm down. But yeah, I mean, he beat the game hitless without rolling. He's an incredible player. But yeah, not so far, at least not his best performance.
Yeah, and I just I think one thing he can do, Mark, I don't want to keep talking like it's over.
Yeah.
Is he could, if he gets into Altus quicker, he could maybe get Radon faster, and that's an important block. But
to me, I think the threat, I agree with Snowy, the threat comes off of row 2 for Chris. It does. Sorcery only has synergy with Spirit Ash. Sorcery only and Black Knives both have synergy with Spirit Ash +4. You got to pick up Raya's Hand and Renala at some point. I think that's where the threat builds off of. In addition, Sorcery only is just a pivotal square for Chris right now, because it blocks Nexus's diagonal as well as preserves one of his 2 remaining bingo threats. The only 2 he has left are row 2 and column 5. Another really key square for Chris. Like, I think you could argue which one's more important, but I think Sorcery only and Black Knives are the most important, because right now if Nexus gets Black Knives, the board is shut down and Chris has no bingos, staring at a 7-2 deficit.
Yeah. Yep. And I think,
and you both probably already have a Black Knife. So at this point in the game, it's kill 1 Black Knife assassin, realistically the one in Liurnia at this point, right?
Which Chris has good grace progress too, right? Getting the Vike Invader Church grace. Nexus finally upgrading his weapon, which is fine.
If I'm Nexus, I would seriously consider pushing this Black Knife, right?
Yeah.
Even if Chris Marks somehow gets 2 other squares worth of progress in the meantime, right? I would still take a 6-4 lead with my opponent. Hell, even if Chris gets 3 squares, I'd be very happy with a 6-5. If I have a 6-5 lead, my opponent has no bingos left, and I still have some bingos available, I'm feeling groovy.
Yeah, I think so too. I wonder if Chris goes.
I think he's just going for Raya's hand in
I
like
think so
Altus.
too.
I think the problem is the scary thing is like he can go for squares obviously to even up the scoreboard, but really what I think he needs to do is he needs to apply pressure. Even if you don't get the bingo, the best way to come back in a game with a wide scored spread is via bingo pressure. You know, either for because when you start applying bingo pressure, things can happen, right? Like you can force your opponent into a into a bad square. You can increase the probability of your opponent getting sniped because
Yeah.
realistically, Chris probably needs like a snipe would be huge for Chris here because then it's like okay, like you guys both spent the same amount of time, but you got a square and your opponent didn't, right? Like that's just like 1 point for you, pretty clean, right? I do think Chris needs to apply bingo pressure somehow.
Yeah, I think one of the only saving graces that Chris could have here is if for some reason Nexus doesn't see Black Knives. Like, you know, like, again, I don't think this is the case. Like, I think based on what we've talked about recently and Coach Nexus through a bit too, he's like more respectful of those types of like bingo sneaking moments to the point where I think he will respect the Black Knives. And my guess is he kills the Black Knife soon. Either not the one in Altus even. I think he goes into the Catacomb and gets it. He can do the one in Altus, but there's no synergy really to do it that way. Yeah, so he's going to go right now. This is like... Chris has a bit of an advantage, but he's not going to push for it. And I think once this gets marked by Nexus, this is going to be really tricky for Chris to manage afterwards. Yeah. Actually, I don't even know where Chris is. Raya's hand.
Yeah, Chris is going Raya's hand. Which, like, I mean, at least he will, like... At least Chris will get to be, like, the first to Altus, and he can, you know, start to work on Radon and things, right? Like, Chris is probably going to get, like, ahead, like... I don't know, there is synergy coming off of this Black Knife, but... In theory, at least, Chris is going to get more squares out of this than Nexus's play, but Nexus gets the blocks, which is really what Nexus needs at this point, right?
Yeah, like Nexus hasn't marked anything since the Watchdogs, right? And that was, I'm just going to check real quick, like almost 10 minutes ago. So if you're Chris, like with this board, you got to assume Altus prep. So like, you know, like you're not really ahead on Altus.
Yeah.
We know that, but internal timing wise, I think it's pretty safe to say that it can be well understood by now, if you're Chris, that Nexus is close to Altus.
Mm-hmm. A great point. I saw a great point. I'm gonna actually read it. A great point from Vaughn in the YouTube chat, which also I think will help new players kind of understand the situation. Vaughn said, "It's like chess. If you are down a piece on principle, you can't afford to trade because the game just grinds you down and you have no end game options." That's the position that Chris is in right now. That was very well put, Vaughn.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Being behind this way is definitely the least favorable place to be, for those reasons and more. I'm trying to think, like... I'm trying to think of how Chris can get back into this. He's going to be an Altus first, so...
He will win Raya's hand, and he can go Radon right after.
Yeah. And he has good grace set up for that, too.
Nexus here going for the Black Knife.
Oh, shit. You can frost them. What did he get? Raya's hand? Okay, that's fine. You can have it.
And Nexus gets Black Knife Assassins, and there's all bingos blocked for Chris.
Yeah, I think you really heard it in Nexus's way of approaching the Raya mark. You can have it, right? I mean, I think that really just situates where he feels good about in this
Yeah.
game. Like, because it doesn't matter, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean, like it does. Like it obviously is a square for Chris, and it shows that he is Altus priority. But it's just not. At least at the current moment, I don't think it's enough.
no. And like, Nexus is going to. He's in Limgrave now. Where is he going? Where are you going, Nexus? This is Fort Height, right? Where are you running to?
I'm not
Right.
sure.
Am I bad? Why?
Oh, sorcery only. Sorcery only.
Oh, duh. Yeah, I
sorcery
guess.
only. Yep.
Is this faster than Gatefront? Probably.
I'm sure he's timed it. If anyone, yeah, definitely is because you jump up right there.
Yeah, okay.
I think if you have a Gil like north, it's probably faster, but if you have Gatefront, this is faster.
Sure. Yeah, sorcery only it is then.
See if there's anything good.
Big for him.
Well, also because it would build a big threat on the diag,
Oh,
right?
I tried to strafe it. It did not work.
Next
Force
thing is
Chris
hard.
to claim his priority on Radon as well, right? Because Chris probably does not want to do the Apostle. It's just too high scaled, right?
Yeah.
Radon's one of the few squares
Please. Thank you.
Chris has prio on, and you can force him into it.
That was funny.
Of course, you're seeing the hardest thing that Nexus has had to fight so far this seed being the head of the pumpkin.
Hey, it's difficult.
So I have a little
It
under
is tricky. It's a
9k
tricky part.
to work with here.
The tricky part. But, yeah, this is.
God, hearing Nexus mash his controller is so like. Pebble.
Is
Pebble works.
probably my best bet, yeah. Pebble fucks. What was that? It was 10 int?
Pebble
Yeah,
works
Pebble
perfectly
is
fine. The Cemetery Shade's
Yeah.
super low scaled. Basically, any sorcery that's not complete garbage will do.
Yeah. And I wonder what Chris's move here, smithing bell bearing? Maybe to get his weapon to plus
Yeah,
12
I think so. At
before
least to get the
Radon?
second bell bearing to get his weapon to plus 12.
Yeah.
If you're Chris here, I don't think you can go Radon. Even though you have heavy prio on it, like you shown you have priority on Alta squares, right? What you really need to do in Chris's spot is you need to hope that Nexus does not push into your prio. You need to just count those as your squares and go try to steal squares off of Nexus, right? Going like or getting these like 50-50 squares. I think at this point in the game, going and fisting Rick, not a bad idea at all, right? It blocks 2 bingos. It's not super quick, but overall not a huge time sink. I think this is perfect, very solid play by Chris.
Yeah.
Because he just needs to sit on his Alta squares like Radon and just say, you know what, Nexus isn't going to push these. I need to try to snipe him. I need to try to go for I need to, soul read him and go for the square that he's going for and beat him on it.
Yeah, I see that. I wonder, Nexus grabbed the Astrologer Staff. I was wondering if it's a stat rec problem or because Meteorite Staff is just like a plus something somber in its own right.
Kind of.
Maybe
It,
just like
it
a
has
fast
S
square.
scaling with int, so that's why it's so good. The thing is, I think it is a stat requirement because I believe it's either 16 or 18 for the Meteorite Staff, 16 or 18 int. Also, you will see shock as well. I don't know if it's shockingly or unshockingly. There is tech for fisting Rick. We've timed it. It is faster to do tap R2s, and you want to basically just keep up the pressure as much as possible and only do tap R2s. You do not backstab. You do not do charged R2s. It is always tap R2s. If you have 30 combined strength and dex, you will do 6 damage per hit. Anything else, you will do 4 damage. And yeah, there's some other niche stats. What else is there? Oh, if you have 6 damage per hit and you eat an exalted flesh, it'll go up to 8. If you have 4 damage and you use Blue Dancer Charm, it will go up to 6. However, if you use Blue Dancer Charm at 6, it will not go up to 8. If you use Golden Epitaph, it shreds him because it buffs your fist with holy damage for some reason.
These are all good things to know.
Yeah, here's all the that was my list of fist Rick tech for any new people. There's your crash course on Rick fisting.
On Rick fisting.
Hey.
Boy. I don't know if I want to hear those words again. Rick fisting. I'll have to, I'm sure. But
Do you have a problem with our fisting technique, Ellie?
I mean, a little bit, but
All right, that's fair.
just a tad. All the same. Yeah.
All right, Chris is gonna keep fisting Rick. We're gonna go full screen with Nexus here.
Yeah, I was right. Okay.
Oh, Pebble is doing work.
Yeah, Pebble's good.
Absolute work.
Dude, please
It's
stop
super
teleporting
cheap
around.
and does
I'd appreciate it.
decent damage. It's perfect.
Yeah, there's Rick.
There's Rick.
That won't hit me.
Now the Cemetery Shade is just standing still and being an idiot, and
let's
there's
Scalar
sorcery
Dragon
only.
Arrow.
Yeah.
Sorcery.
I think Chris is gonna look at Tree Spirits here. I think this is fine because if I'm Chris, I would go for Tree Spirits here or something similar, because I would say Nexus is trying to force me into Radon. He's trying to force me. He knows he's not going to get this bingo, but he's trying to force me into the squares that I already have priority on, right? Because you don't want to, especially when you're losing, you don't want to claim your own priority, right? Like you want to get squares that are 50-50 or, you know, should realistically go to Nexus. You don't want to claim squares that you have in your back pocket when you're already losing, right?
Yeah.
And the
That's also
Cemetery
a
Shade
death
dies
root.
immediately. And Nexus gets a death root. I mean, that's the other problem too. Nexus's synergy here is very strong. Like every square he's doing is setting himself up for the next square or a future
Yeah.
square. Like I think he could have, maybe he's missing some, like he should be pretty close on Spirit Ash. He already picked up a death root there. He got 2 Cemetery Shades. He got sorcery only. Like it's just Nexus's routing is peak.
Yeah, my guess is he's going to go Radon. And then he's going to do that into Spirit Ash +4 and or like maybe just go for, I don't think he doesn't need to go for a bingo game. He's in a majority seat, but he's gonna go for Radon now. And then lock
If
the
I'm
board up,
Chris,
I
I'm
guess,
fine
right?
with this. I would think that Nexus wouldn't go Radon because it's so aggressive. I know it seems like why is he not going for Radon? Why is he not blocking? Like you kind of need to soul read your opponent in Chris's spot. My assumption would be that Nexus doesn't go for Radon because it's just too likely to, like, the probability of getting sniped on that square is very high. But looks like Nexus is going for Radon, and that's not going to be good for Chris.
Okay.
Yeah.
That hurts myself.
I mean, even if you were Nexus and you got sniped on Radon, you need a great rune for Shackles and Gargs anyway. Like, it gives you
I
opens up
guess.
your board still. So like, I don't think I don't think you can respect not going for Radon. I think the prio for Chris on Altus died about 20, maybe 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago, because it's almost an hour in. And this game has enough Altus that you don't get to ignore it. And when you're looking at a majority game, right, and you're counting squares your opponent's going to try and go for and have, surely, Altus is in the cards, right? So, yeah, you got Raya's hand, but you didn't actually do much with it. Right? Like,
Yeah, that's a very fair point.
He hasn't pushed that advantage in a meaningful enough way. We know it wasn't much of an advantage of all because of how close Nexus was, right, to Altus when he marked it, but
Yeah, that's a very fair point.
yeah.
It also
Yeah.
just depends upon like who you are in Nexus's spot, right? Like I tend to be more conservative with the lead, right? Like I'm a very defensive player. Nexus is very aggressive, like just getting him to block the bingos took some convincing to get him come around on that one.
Yeah, I think blocking was good. I just think
No, I'm saying I think it was good. I'm just saying like Nexus is such an aggressive player. He tends to think about like his own offense rather than shutting down the board and blocking bingos.
Yeah, it's actually a really heads up moment for Nexus to not do that, right? To respect the idea that, oh, wait, I could actually lose,
Yeah.
to this, and I need to play around that.
And Nexus even does the speed run strat on Radon. He actually doesn't run backwards. He doesn't run backwards and do the arrow, make the arrows go away because it is like 2 seconds slower.
What? A little bozo.
Yep.
I just say. What a bozo. But he's our bozo, and we love him dearly.
We do love our bozo.
Ah, man.
All right, there's Tree Spirits for Chris. We'll go full screen with Nexus here.
Okay. I don't know why.
Then
I'll take it.
Nexus.
I don't think he needed to
surprise
capitalize
about
on that.
Radon not being marked, right? Like,
There's no more lines that he can get, right? Yeah, I'm sure.
God, that looked close.
hearing Nexus say out loud, "No more lines he can go for," I'm pretty sure, is just the fear of that Strump practice
I got a
game
stagger.
coming
What?
out. Strump really did a number on him.
Dude, Strump fucked him up. I thought he was
Oh,
gonna
another
retire.
Frost Rock. Hell yeah.
I thought he was just gonna. I thought he was gonna go back to playing Fortnite. All right, nice job by Nexus there. Claims center square. Radon.
I appreciate you not going to Chris's cam. I know the policy is when someone's getting trounced a bit, we avoid.
Yeah, I mean, like if it's a close game, I like to see the snipe reaction. But you know, if it's not super close, I don't want to add insult to injury, right?
I mean, I think the viewership deserves to see all perspectives, but I also understand that you're kind. So, like, I don't know, your pick, I guess.
Well, I'm sorry I'm friends with you, and I'm not, like, I'm not a complete content whore, all right?
Well, that's gross. What's the point? What's the point? You're not farming us for clicks.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'd say, I'd say you could call me promiscuous, but, like, I'm not a, complete,
Jesus.
every chance I get.
Well, you should be.
Fair enough.
Disappointing.
Yeah.
Pretty disappointing. Oh, I think like,
Nexus is going for Apostle too. This could be a bingo on the diag.
Even if he wants to just set it up and get Somber 9, like, right, make it a guaranteed slam dunk, like, just play the majority game. Here's the problem, right? The problem with this is there's not a universe where Nexus thinks, and he shouldn't, that Chris doesn't also have D-Halb.
Yeah.
Because it was at Halberd check.
Yeah.
So Nexus has to be under the assumption that his opponent is also using D-Halb. Maybe by now he thinks, no, he hasn't been because the pace has been what it is, but like, you know what I'm saying? I just don't know how Nexus must reconcile somehow.
Yeah.
But,
well, it just hasn't been Chris's day. I mean, I think I will say Chris has been one of the more like volatile players in the league. When he's on his day, he's one of the best. He's arguably the best player in the league, or one of the best. But he also sometimes just he's a young dude. He's only 19, right? Like he can get in his own head a little bit and make mistakes. I unfortunately think we saw that today. I mean, I'm sure you don't because you play him, But I hope to see Chris bounce back and give a much better performance tomorrow. I know, I know you don't, but
No. It's kind of the opposite. Like I would prefer to play my opponent when they're doing well.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like ideally, I don't want to trounce somebody because it doesn't feel good for me to do that.
Yeah.
So like, no, ideally Chris brings out a really good game tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
At
mean,
this point, I'm more interested in playing good games and not winning as like a principled thing.
I guess at the end of the day, right? Like you play to a win's a win, right? You want to win, but you also want to beat winning when your opponent also played very well and it's a great game. Like A, it's just more fun, and B, knowing like, hey, like I was at my best and I beat my opponent when they were also at their best, right? There's something to that.
Yeah, there's something to losing too if you both play well, right? Like if you lose but you both played a good game, then it's like good though. We both had like a good solid foundational game and it was close. Like that doesn't feel as bad. But like beating somebody who shows up half-assed feels hollow, right? Like it's not interesting. And I've never felt that way in all the competition I've done.
Well, Nexus is going for the Apostle and the Divine Tower of Caelid. We do keep stats for most of the bosses and keep their kill death ratio. The Apostle ratio wise has more player kills than any boss in the game, at least in the bingo game. We'll see how Nexus does here as he goes for the win.
This is a big fight. This is a scary fight too. It's only a +4 too.
Did he just jump the fireball?
Bro. Is that even good to? Is that even better to do than just
This
running?
ultra
towards
sweat.
it?
Why was that so delayed, dude?
Is that
really?
even
You had
better?
to do that?
I don't even know.
I don't think it's better. You don't get any distance. You can dodge it while distance.
Okay, right.
Okay, unlike Shura, who talks about fighting the apostles locked off, Nexus actually fights the apostles locked off.
I tested this.
Dude, what the
for a
shit am I
while.
doing?
There was a while where I was like, I need to learn how to do
hell.
fights really cool locked off, and for some reason I chose Apostle. It can be really good, but holy shit, particularly on this boss, is it difficult.
I also don't... I've fought in a lot... Yeah, I mean, the weapon matters a ton, because pokes are pretty rough without them, but I fought a lot of Apostle due to Rando. I don't really... I fight it better with using both. Locked on and locked off, depending on what's going on. That's how I do most of my fights. I try to.
Give me that.
The combination.
There's some really nasty strafes that you can do locked off, but they're very difficult.
Yeah.
Really?
I'm just gonna keep it a buck. I'm not. Ooh, that was a bad catch out.
I am not this good, and I think that's what you were gonna say. I'm not brave enough to do this, nor do I.
God, I hate
I'm
this
just
weapon.
not interested in practicing it yet. And
God, I hate this fucking weapon. Holy shit.
But
Nexus complaining about his weapon.
Upgraded Bozo. Sorry.
Nah, he just hates the moveset for Apostle, which is fair.
Understandable.
I didn't need a dodge.
Big stagger.
What? I'm on the rock!
Oh, that's not good. Couldn't get the repose.
Oh. Okay, I thought he was trapped in that corner for a second. I was like,
I did too. Well, if he gets a frost, that'll do a lot. There it is.
Oh, stamina.
Just a few more hits. We'll wrap this game up. Nexus will move to 6-1.
Ow!
And will reclaim the #1 overall seed in the recusants.
This is the longest stall I've seen Apostle do in a long time.
Well, Fireball's a great attack.
Yeah, that's good.
Bro.
Jump.
And GG's, that'll do it. Congrats to Nexus. Hell of a bingo win.
GG's.
Great game by Nexus. Clinical performance, classic Nexus. Just a really great game by him.
That was probably the least clean Apostle I've ever seen in my entire life. Dude, I think...
Very good.
I think
Very good
I
game.
need to just shove D-Hub up my ass, bro. I can't even lie. Fuck that weapon.
Man.
That shit sucks.
God, I
It's a
like
hard
how
loss.
Nexus
Jeez
is
to Chris,
so.
though.
Dude, he's so hard on himself. He's complaining
Good
about how bad his
game.
apostle fight was.
Yeah, but that's how he improves, right?
Yeah, that's how he is. That's how I get it. I'm the same
Yeah.
way. I get
Yeah.
it. But
Yeah.
we will bring the boys in here and do a little post-match interview.
Okay.
GG's, gamers. GG's. Welcome in.
Oh, was I brought in? Oh, okay. I just turned on the stream. I was like, wait. What's up, guys? GG's, Chris.
Yeah, GG's.
GG's, man.
Well, Nexus, a nice job. I mean, obviously, I know you're noted your apostle or whatever, but overall, a very clinical performance.
We don't talk about that fight, dude.
Okay,
Let's
all
let's just
right,
ignore.
all
Let's
right, all
let's
right.
ignore that ever happened.
Well, regardless, a very clinical performance from you. We did notice your urgency to block the bingos, going for watchdogs early and then black knives.
I've been traumatized. Shout out Trump and Psy.
We did call that.
We
said
did call that, yeah.
Nexus isn't getting traumatized twice. That's not happening.
I said, I don't know if you were listening, but I was like, I can't get Strump inside again. It can't happen. I won't allow it.
That's funny.
Is that what Chris was doing? Was he
No.
setting it up? Oh,
No,
okay.
no.
Okay. So a little overreaction, but it needed to be done. I was scared.
Effectively broke my spirit.
It was
Wait,
the
which one? Which snipe?
Catacomb snipe effectively broke my spirit.
Oh,
sniped him.
no.
Chris was ahead of you, but had a really bad duelist fight, and you sniped him by like 2
Oh,
seconds.
no.
Felt
That's
more like
rough.
a quarter second.
Yeah.
No fucking way, dude. That's rough.
Yeah, the duelist fight was the Nexus. You can tell the difference. Some differences that were really important was obviously Nexus's practice on fights in general, and like
Yeah.
he basically perma staggered the duelist, so didn't get to play. And vacuum slice was a really good Ash of War's use as well. And then the second problem was, and this will be something that speaks to you, I think, Nexus, is Chris died getting
No.
to the duelist the first time I threw the imps and didn't get the grace.
Yeah, without the
Oh,
grace.
see, I made that mistake last
Yeah, but
time.
to say, that's a Nartok Nexus moment if I've
I
ever
was,
seen one.
I was
so-
like, as I was getting the grace, I was like, I have to get this, get the grace, get it.
Yeah, yeah,
Not
yeah.
again.
yeah,
It can't happen.
and that was a big deal, I think, unfortunately.
Chris, did you use D-Halb?
No.
What?
Okay, you guys have to talk about this. And Chris, I gotta know, like, what was your thought process of not checking Halberd check this game?
Oh my god, if I had known he didn't use it, I wouldn't have used that fucking weapon. Oh my god.
Well, he didn't
I'm so
check
mad.
it, so it's not.
No,
Yeah,
I
I
know,
got,
but if I had
Flambird, and I
known,
was
if
like-
I had known, then I wouldn't have used it because I hate it.
I mean, to be fair, you did ask him for a peeler, gentlemen's beforehand, and he said no. So
That's true, but I hate that weapon.
So
It's
sorry,
cringe.
what was your thought, Chris?
I don't know. I just saw Flambridge and I just like went with it.
Okay.
I mean, smithing bell bearings is on this board, but like you didn't get the square. I think if you were
was
gonna
on the
use a
way.
smithing weapon. GG's, man. Good game.
well, GG's Nexus. Congratulations on another win.
Thank you.
You now will move back ahead of Shura, and you'll be in first place.
I need
again.
Shura to know his place. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
That's all
it is.
GG's Nexus.
Damn.
GG's to Nexus and
Damn.
Chris. Everyone, please make sure to follow these guys. Also, I know Chris has been working really hard on a new YouTube video that will come out soonish, TBD.
Soon TM.
He beat the game. He beat the game. All the boss fights blindfolded, as well as some other restrictions. It's going to be an incredible video. I'm going to go ahead and link his YouTube for both the Twitch and YouTube chat. You should definitely go sub to him and check him out. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate you. We still got 2 more matches ahead of us, but we're going to probably take about a 10 to 15 minute break here, and then we will be right back. So thank you so much for watching. See you all soon.
Bye, guys.
Please become Elden Lord.